I ran the experiments many times over just to be really diligent with my work. And the results are magic is real. This is the spell I've got going right now. And I must say, they're looking very aesthetically pleasing, but flowers do a lot of heavy lifting, and so do candles. Hi, my name is Sav, they, them. Do me a favor and bring your awareness into your body. Maybe take a deep breath. Notice any sensations that are present for you that come up immediately. No worries if there's nothing that comes up right away. And throughout this video, I encourage you to bring your awareness to sensation in your hands, sensation in your feet, or just place your hands on your body, over your heart, on your arms. Rest your hands on your thighs, your knees. Play with your hair. Massage your hands, etc. But just keep bringing your awareness back to your body. I'm on this journey to rewire my brain to be able to experience more pleasure. Why would I do that? Well, as it turns out, pleasure is a very important factor, a very important experience for our bodies and for our spirits. But that's a loaded statement, so let's back up a couple more steps. At a primal level, our bodies need to feel safe enough to digest food properly, fight off illnesses properly, to be able to mingle and socialize and reproduce, and all of those experiences which are necessary for human life forms to continue on existing requires a certain threshold of pleasure to be met. You could use other words like, homeostasis or satisfaction, fulfillment, contentment. But what do all of those states have in common? They're all pleasant states to exist in. Now, pleasure is a word that describes an outcome rather than a mechanism towards getting there. If you want to know a little bit more about the sciencey part of pleasure, go back and watch my previous video about pleasure helping me regulate my ADHD. But essentially, we experience pleasure most when we're in situations that bring about oxytocin. Oxytocin is the thing that helps bring our body back into homeostasis and is the thing that literally regulates our dopamine release. If there isn't enough oxytocin being released, then it won't allow the neurotransmitters to open for dopamine to be released. That's probably an oversimplification. I'm not a neuroscientist. But Google Scholar fact check me, bro. So pleasure is very important for survival. How do we bring about these experiences that are pleasure-inducing without falling into the obvious trap of just constantly chasing after pleasurable experiences, pleasant experiences? Well, we make it intentional and we practice mindfulness. We practice being in the present. Because by practicing mindfulness, we are training our whole systems to experience any sensations as pleasurable. But this is obviously much easier said than done. And this is where ritual comes in. Ritual is a tool of structuring your time and your actions and the things that you take in with your senses to intentionally rewire your own brain to experience life differently. So what about that part where I said magic is real? Well, it is. We do ritual every day, whether or not we're really mindful of it. And a ritual becomes more powerful the more awareness we put into it. If you're interested in the how of making your own rituals, I am writing a book on the topic. That is not out yet, but you can get on the wait list if you go to my linktree in the places that those things usually are. But what does ritual really do to our psyches, and what does it do to our spirits? During ritual, you open this mindfulness portal where all of your actions can have meaning, and it becomes a very psychedelic experience and a mindset that's very ripe for you intentionally remolding your beliefs about your life, about the world, and therefore your entire experience about the world. It's almost like getting yourself into a trance, and in fact, you can do exactly that to get into a ritual space if you desire. That can be a very powerful experience. But the rituals that we do, on a day-to-day basis, think about the happy birthday song and how we bring out a cake with a candle lit to the person whose birthday it is, and we sing to them, and then they make a wish and close their eyes and blow the candle out. That's a ritual. You have your metaphors that you're playing with. You're using the candle as a transmutation tool. You're using chanting, singing, all together too. And there's an agreed upon spell that people are casting together. And what's the purpose of this? Just to make someone feel special, to celebrate them on their birthday. There's not too much that we're getting out of it other than it's pleasant, it's pleasurable, it feels good to be loving to someone who it's their birthday. Even if you don't know the person, you ever been at a restaurant and people start singing happy birthday and then the whole restaurant joins in? It's exactly like that. We all want to feel pleasure, and we want other people to feel pleasure too, because deep down in our bones, we know that that state is ripe for joy and connection and creativity. And we want to give that experience to other people, and we want to have that for ourselves. And those experiences are necessary for our health, necessary for our well-being, our ability to regulate ourselves and to learn from each other and to evoke wisdom and compassion from within each other. When you do ritual, you can have an intention of trying to change your external reality, And I would say that 95% of the time, ritual, I am confident ritual can accomplish that. But frankly, the more important thing to focus on when doing ritual is your own felt sense, because you can't actually reach into another person's mind or body or soul and have the experience that they're having. That's not for this lifetime of yours. For your lifetime, you get to experience through your body and your senses. And we have, many of us, spent a whole life numbing ourselves to the sensations that we're capable of feeling all throughout our body. You know, they're not just the 5 senses. Did you know that some scientists argue that we have over 40 different bodily senses? And that's not even counting the sort of more psychic ones. But why do we have all of these senses? Because our spirit wants to experience this lifetime in as rich of detail as possible. From another perspective, God, Spirit, wants us, the universe, our higher selves, Buddha, wants us to experience this lifetime in as rich of detail as it can, because with every experience, your remembrance of your oneness with the rest of the universe grows. Your compassion has the opportunity to grow. Your wisdom has the opportunity to grow. And your capacity for ideas, for creativity, for art also grows. By witnessing and experiencing all that life has to offer via our senses, we are able to grow our creative capacity without being connected to what's happening right here and now, because that's the only thing that exists. We can't be good artists. And it's really hard to have a fun time or a good time without connecting to the present moment. And I'm just going to keep saying it. Pleasure is necessary. But we can't get pleasure by having this mindset of like, okay, I'm going to go feel good now. I'm going to go feel good now. I'm going to go feel good now. When you have a closed palm like that, it's not open to receiving any good experiences at all. All it can experience is that tension, so you have to open the palm and let life flow through, because it's happening all the time. Even if you're sitting by yourself in your room right now, or you're in a worse situation, you're somewhere in this physical plane. There is awe and wonder to be found everywhere. But you can't squeeze and make it happen. You have to open your palm and be open also to the discomfort, trusting that none of the sensations are permanent. Every single one of our sensations, of our experiences, is temporary and will pass. So what do I mean when I say rewiring our brains for pleasure? Well, between our biological and our social conditioning, currently, most of our brains are wired for pain and fear and discomfort. So what's happening on a biological level? Many studies have found that our brains are naturally wired to pay more attention to painful experiences than to positive, pleasant experiences. Even though, objectively, those experiences are happening at an even rate depending on your perspective, and your perspective really does shift everything. But on that biological level, that has helped us survive. So there is wisdom there in us having a big capacity to experience pain and discomfort. But rewiring for pleasure isn't necessarily saying that we're not going to feel pain. It's just that we're also increasing our capacity for pleasure. So the cultural conditioning that I feel is also important to talk about is that even the word pleasure, I don't know about you, but in my body, that word feels gross. That word feels perverted. I was brought up evangelical Christian in a conservative area, so that speaks for itself. But in case you don't know what I'm implying, basically that group of people tends to demonize any feelings of pleasure. They associate feelings of pleasure with, kind of a greediness, which is a real thing that can happen, but it has, unfortunately, in that, subculture, morphed into this weird ideology about how pleasure is just sinful and dirty and you need to repent, and because we're inherently sinful beings, we don't deserve to feel good. There's a lot there. So that's a big reason why I'm rewiring my brain for pleasure, because even when I am enjoying eating my ice cream, I notice myself, kind of just dissociating, be like, this is so good. I don't know how to eat ice cream, apparently. That's not how I eat ice cream, but like laying in the sun, it just feels good. But I'm, instead of my mind being there while I'm laying in the sun, it's twiddling off to some other direction that's probably me churning over some unpleasant experience that I had. I'm like at the beach, I'm in the forest, I'm hanging out with friends, I'm having a wonderful time, someone is playing with my hair, I'm hearing a beautiful bird song, the sand feels so nice on my feet, the water is so cold and refreshing, I'm swimming in the river on a hot day. All of these pleasurable sensory experiences are being gifted to me daily. And I find my mind trying to escape. It's already preoccupied with being attached to finding problems in my life and pretending like it's looking for solutions, but actually it's just addicted to the feeling of discomfort, because at a very young age, I internalized an assumed storyline about how if I suffer more, I will be more valuable. I will be a better person. I will get some kind of points with God if I revoke any kind of pleasure and just allow myself to wallow in discomfort. So much so that in these very pleasant, beautiful sensory experiences, I have to make it uncomfortable for myself. I tense up. It's scary. Why? Because pleasure is revolutionary, actually. Pleasure is revolutionary. But true pleasure isn't coming from the insatiable hunger of, the suffering that we create for ourselves, the attachment to certain ideas of what pleasure might be. Pleasure is found in the present moment, every single present moment. When I talk about finding pleasure in all experiences, even painful ones, it's kind of like when someone's giving you a massage and they're massaging that really tender spot. They found the spot and it hurts, but it hurts so good. You know that they're not actually hurting you. There's a sensation of pain, but it's also a sensation of satisfaction, like something beneficial is actually being done. Pleasure can be found in interesting places such as discipline. Discipline is another heavy word. Talk about another sticky word. If pleasure is sticky, then discipline is extremely sticky. But another word for discipline is practice. When I'm doing my art practice, I'm trying to make some kind of art every single day. There is discomfort. There's friction to me doing that because I haven't done that practice enough to make it like easy movements in my neurochemistry yet. The more I practice, the smoother and more easeful it will be. But until then, the practice is staying devoted to it, staying disciplined. And it's so satisfying to move through that place of friction of getting started and then do the art, make the art, just get into it. It doesn't need to be a whole big ass painting or anything. It can just be a little doodle or a little video or practice a song that I've been really enjoying listening to. Once I just start a little bit, the flow feels so good. It feels so satisfying that I'm doing a hard thing. And it does get a little easier after you just start, and getting the inertia built to just start the thing is difficult. But even doing that is like, it's kind of a rush. like this reframing of experiences into something pleasurable is something that I'm using very cautiously, but I think it is a powerful tool because I don't want to negate the fact that some things are just uncomfortable and hard, and some things do suck, and some things are intensely painful, and that reality should not be denied. But pleasure doesn't come from denying reality. True pleasure, deep pleasure, does not come from denying reality. Actually, similarly, like even while going through some intense grief, if you're like crying a lot, after you finish crying, there is a huge endorphin release, almost as if to reward you for swimming through that ocean of grief and riding those waves or getting pummeled by them. Back to the magic is real thing and why it's so important that we focus our rituals, we focus our mindfulness on the present moment, on exactly what's going on right here, right now. We open up to the possibility that there is pleasure in every single moment if we bring our awareness to those places. And by prompting ourselves to be looking for where the pleasure already exists, we rewire our brain to start looking for it more in more parts of our lives. and then it becomes a literal positive feedback loop. People say positive feedback loop in a technically, scientifically incorrect way. Doesn't matter, Sav. But the point is, it is literally a positive feedback loop, because scientifically a positive feedback loop is when the loop feeds on itself and it can become like exponentially bigger. It's not necessarily good. They're just using the word positive because it's not negative. The feedback loop is like continuing itself rather than eventually stopping. The action is, but here, this is a positive feedback loop by prompting your brain to look for where the pleasure already is. And it's not outside yourself, actually. Even when you're observing, like you're observing a beautiful flower, the flower is outside of you, but your experience of it is inside of you. The light is hitting your eyes, and your brain is interpreting those light signals in a certain way, and that experience is happening inside of you, not outside of you. And that takes us back to the feeling the body, feeling what's going on in the body, tapping into becoming more aware of what senses our bodies actually have. So when we're prompting ourselves to pay attention to more of our bodily sensations, we're prompting ourselves to experiencing more pleasure because we're seeing more of it, not because necessarily we're making more of it happen. We're seeing more of it. Then we take an aligned action, for example, doing some kind of ritual, or doing something really simple that you don't need to even consider a ritual, like you take a bath, you go on a walk on a sunny day. Any of these intentional actions where you are choosing your fate with this decision, you're choosing your fate for the next several minutes to hours, and you're going, I'm choosing this experience because I want to actually feel it. I want to be present with it. You're choosing pleasure. If you're not aware in the present moment, all you're doing is ruminating. Ruminating isn't pleasurable. I should know. There is an attachment to it that maybe has some kind of shadow of pleasure, but when you experience actual, real, embodied pleasure, it's so obvious that it pales in comparison. And when you are doing ritual that really intensely shifts your neural pathways because you're bringing that much awareness to the present moment, and to your mind, and to your perspective on the world. Like my ritual right now, I am intentionally engaging with my creative energy and sharing it with other people. And in that way, I'm rewiring my brain to be open to more connection, to community, to making more art. I'm opening myself to being a channel for more love in the world. And I took some very specific actions that invigorated my senses while I was putting the ritual together. I used essential oils and plants as offerings in a bowl mixed with alcohol, and all of those scents combined to be very fragrant, and that really, awoke my senses. Lighting the candle is beeswax. It has its own scent, and its texture is really silky, really, really smooth and buttery. And the light that it emits when its burning is really warm and soft. I arranged a colorful, fresh bouquet, and the scent and the sight, and the experience of going and picking the flowers and being outside, getting the fresh air, feeling the sensation in my body as I'm walking around and interacting with the plant. The point of the ritual is that I'm doing all of those things with a goal in mind, kind of similar to someone writing a story, and the story is a metaphor, but it has a very beautiful moral to it that the author felt like sharing creatively, because the author could have very easily said, I oppose this thing that's happening in our culture. But instead of doing that, the author decided to use their creative energy to channel that message in a way that would be more striking to the human spirit. Because I think our creative emanations are gifts from God. And I don't mean God in a out there kind of way. I mean God in an in here kind of way. And a God in there kind of way. And in there and in there. When we do ritual, we're opening this portal where all of our mindful awareness is almost magnified. It becomes more powerful because we're connecting all of these little actions with an intention. And that intention then can sink way more deeply into our subconscious, because our subconscious speaks the language of story and art. The subconscious does not enjoy being communicated to with direct language. It hardly likes language, So doing ritual, we can communicate actually more directly to our subconscious. And when we do that, but we not only shift our frequency, but what I think that practically means is we prime our brains to take more aligned actions in our lives. All of us have wisdom deep within us, I believe. All of us have Buddha nature within us already. That's just waiting to be remembered and waiting to be interacted with. And when we take ritualistic actions or intentional actions, or just bring mindfulness into our lives, we are sending a prompt to our deep mind, the place where the wisdom resides. We're sending a prompt there like, hey, my prompt for my ritual is basically about authenticity and magnetism. I'm trying to attract the audience that's aligned with me to me. And I am trying to make it so that I can have a positive impact in the world and just help people experience more pleasure, help people experience less suffering and more stability, more wellness, more connection. So my ritual is prompting that intention and sending it into my deep mind, my subconscious, and to the place where my wisdom resides. And if nothing else, even if my ritual isn't having an external impact on the world. It is very much so having an internal impact on me. And the only thing that I actually have any control over is my own actions, my own will. Because look, baby, you could do magic all day long, but if you don't take some aligned actions, very few of your spells are going to come to fruition. Because if you're not willing to take aligned actions and become the person who can receive the outcomes of your spells and your rituals are not going to do anything for you. Because you are a human, you have a human body, you have a physical body, and so in this lifetime, in this incarnation, it's all about that action in the physical realms. Once you're a spirit again, you know, I don't know, maybe you could get away with giving away your agency or something. Probably not, honestly. You might as well just practice while you have this lifetime to do so. But yeah, you're, prompting your subconscious, and I've been doing this since I was 14, casting spells, doing rituals, and I can tell you that every single spell I have done has worked out in my favor and given me what I wanted in a way. Sometimes that way was not what I expected, and sometimes the outcomes were not as powerful as I wanted them to be, but that was because I didn't do the work. I was hoping that I could cast a spell, put very little energy into it, and then some external force could come save me. But this is my life, and there's nothing I need to get saved from other than my own suffering. There was this one time that I manifested a very specific amount of money. And I remember it was something like $5,374. It was like something like really specific. Because I just wanted to see what would happen. And I think it was like 6 months later, I got a check that was exactly that amount, and it was very unexpected. I was part of a class action lawsuit and got exactly that amount of money. Granted, it was because my employer was paying their employees less than minimum wage, so, it's kind of but it was a good test. It was a really good experiment, because why would I have gotten that exact amount of money? And I definitely did not make that in my monthly salary, so for what I was doing at that time. But yeah, magic is real because you're magic, and you using your agency is what makes magic real, partially. It's a two-way street. There's spirit is powerful, and then there's you, and you're both kind of the same thing, but you just have a physical body in this incarnation. Magic is real. It's achieved through the present moment. It's not achieved by trying to grasp for something outside of you. Magic is already real inside of you. And not only is the present moment the magic that's needed, it's also very pleasurable. And opening up to pleasure opens us up to magic. And then the positive feedback loop can start rolling. Plus, who doesn't want to experience a pleasurable life? Thank you so much for being present with yourself and being present with this creation emanation from my heart. If you want to see more of my work, you can access exclusive weekly energy workings based on your requests via live stream on Patreon. You can book one-on-one virtual energy work rituals with me for more support. And all of my art and other connections are in my link tree in the normal places. May you and I experience liberation into love in this lifetime, and may all beings. Love you. Bye.